going through a bit of a midlife crisis. Went out and bought me a scooter, so I've pretty much gone from the highest maturity level I've ever been when I hit 31 back down to like, I don't know, 12. I just like to be outdoors a lot, especially in the summertime, because where I live, you only get about 6 months, maybe, of good weather. And this summer has been nothing but gray skies and rain. So when days like this come along, you gotta make the most of it. Spend a lot of time at the local parks, out on the water, in my kayak. But there's something I wanted to talk to you guys about. I wanted to talk a little bit about the controversy over whether or not ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or apostates should protest at kingdom halls. I know, it's a subject that's been beaten to death by both sides. Had to scoot away from a lawnmower that was making a lot of noise. But no, I know it's a subject that's been beaten to death by both sides. I get it. But I don't feel like anybody's ever brought something to your attention quite like I'm going to try to today. And that's the fact that there is some truth to both sides of the argument. By now, you've probably heard it all. Well, the criticism to protesting is, when you protest, it's confirming their bias. It's feeding into their persecution complex, right? And the argument has always been, on one side, that you're doing more harm than good when you protest the Kingdom Hall. That you're going to drive the Jehovah's Witnesses only further into the cult. And then the other argument, of course, is that, well, some of these people will never even hear about some of the things like the two-witness rule or the Australian Royal Commission if we don't take it to them. I mean, hey, Jehovah's Witnesses have been actively going to our doorstep every Saturday morning. Some apostates and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses feel it's not only appropriate but fitting that we take some information to them from time to time. Well, listen guys, we all have bias, okay? I have bias. And the thing about bias is, if we don't at least try to be aware of our own bias, well, that's how cults are formed. But I've really made an attempt to be aware of my own bias because this is a prime example, this issue, of both sides of the argument having some merit. Both sides of this argument has some truth to it. And what I would say to those on the side that claims that protesting at the kingdom halls does more harm than good, that it only drives people further into the cult, I will give you that there is some truth to that to a certain extent. But the very fact that you are acknowledging that there are levels to indoctrination, when you claim that protesting a kingdom hall can drive people further into the cult, that's what you're doing. You're suggesting there are levels of indoctrination. So by doing that, you have to admit that while there are those, sure, that are so indoctrinated, so die-hard, that when you go into a kingdom hall, talk about the two-witness rule, it confirms their persecution complex and drives them deeper, sure. But you have to admit that because you believe there are levels of indoctrination, that there are some in there who are sick to death with the organization. There are those in those kingdom halls who are only paying lip service for their friends and family, who would much appreciate some knowledge. And it's only fair that you acknowledge that truth. I'm willing to acknowledge that there are some who will be further indoctrinated or their persecution complex could drive them further into the cult. So would you at least be willing to admit that there are some people in those kingdom halls who don't want to be there in the first place? That they're just going through the motions? Maybe they've seen some things in their own personal lives, or they've been negatively affected by the organization, the brothers at the Kingdom Hall, something like that. And they're having serious doubts. They may not have actually gotten the nerve to go on the internet and look for themselves what Jehovah's Witnesses are all really about, because that's a scary thing, right? But you have to admit that those individuals are in the Kingdom Hall, and you have to at least be open to the possibility that by going in there and sharing some information like the 2-witness rule, the Australian Royal Commission, inviting them to look at a website that they've never heard before, jwfacts.com, you have to be willing to admit that there are some out there who will one day greatly appreciate that you did that. Otherwise, you're just being closed-minded. So speaking of protests, there's kind of a big one coming. And if you watch the Vast Apostate Hour, which is on a little bit of a hiatus, but it's coming back very soon. If you are tuned into the VAH channel, then you probably already know about November 5th this year. It's coming up really fast. It's only, 4 months? August, September, October, November, yeah. 4 months. There's going to be a massive protest, the likes of which the Watchtower has never seen before. And I will definitely be there. Zeb, I'm Worldly, he's going to be there. Joel, the Unwitnessed. We're going to get as many people as possible together, and we're going to light the biggest fire the North has ever seen. That's a Game of Thrones joke. But no, seriously. There's a park just south of the new Watchtower headquarters in Warwick. Just south of them, about 3 miles, is a awesome park right on the water. There's a lake there. There's picnic benches. It looks a lot like this one, actually. I looked it up online, and it looks perfect for a gathering. There will be food. I'm going to make sure everybody's fed. Me and Joel are putting a lot of thought into how we can make this a really good time. But on top of the enjoyment that we're going to have in each other's company, we're also going to have serious work to do. We're going to have a march against the Watchtower. Like I said, this park is only about 3, maybe 4 miles from the Watchtower headquarters in Warwick. And I think it would be fantastic if we marched down the highway to the very gates of the Jehovah's Witness Watchtower Corporation headquarters. And we're going to do it legit. We're going to have the police involved, make sure everything is on the up and up. There are a lot of other efforts that are going to be made against the Watchtower during this event. We're keeping some of them very close to the chest right now, but depending on how much money the GoFundMe raises, you're going to see some spectacular stuff during this protest event. The GoFundMe, you can find it on the VAH Facebook page. I'll actually post a link to it too. Joel's got a care package where when you donate, you get all this cool stuff. I'm also throwing in to that pot. I've made an apostate CD with, I put together some beats with some governing body tracks to to play loud in your car or out and about, whatever. And it's just kind of for fun, but I'm going to throw that in whenever you donate. I believe it's $50 or more, or $30 or more. I think it's $30 or more. You're going to get that as well. I hope you guys come out, and I hope you don't give up completely on the idea of protesting. Because if we just go silently into the night when we're disfellowshipped and when we're shunned, then they think they're right. And we got to let them know that they're not right, and that we are not just happily accepting our penance in obscurity. So, alright guys, well, it's good to make a video and get out there again, but thanks for your support as always, and hope I see you in November.